Hello everybody, how are you? I hope you're doing good. It's yet another episode, another show on the reality check with me, Wanjiko Mwaura, and I have an amazing guest who's gracing our show today, who goes by the name Mark Justin, and he's a recovery coach at Savali Rehabilitation Centre.
Yes.
He's also a former addict of gambling and alcohol and drugs. I know that sounds quite... He's now a recovery coach, and he was into drugs. Without far much ado, we'll go straight ahead into hearing from him. Hi Mark.
Thank you. Hi, how are you, Mary?
Uko aje?
Mimi niko salama kabisa, nikusukuma musmus.
Unasukuma?
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante
to
sana.
the reality check.
Thank you very much.
Well, go ahead, introduce yourself, tuambie who is Mark, where you come from, and
Yes.
what you do basically.
Thank you very much, Mary. My name is Mark. I am born again. That one si achangi. I'm a former addict, formerly in jail, but now I'm a recovery coach. Not only a recovery coach, but I help people to get out of addiction with the help of God. And not only that, I help people to get to know themselves and to know their potential, because I know everybody has that part of themselves that they have not yet fully realized. And when you realize who you are, you won't use yourself into addiction and into drugs.
Wow.
Absolutely, yes.
So Mark, if we were to judge you with our eyes, you don't look like you are into alcohol, drugs and all that.
Yeah.
And now you look all transformed. How was that? When did you get into those addictions?
25th, I got to them when I was in class 8, that is 2009. I grew up in, let me just say, that's when issues became worse. Started now, I mean, boiling. I was in class 8. I had just repeated class 8, and I hated the fact that I had been made to repeat. And I never wanted that. Actually, I only added 3 marks after repeating. I had scored 319, I scored 322 the second time. But I also continued some of these small habits when in high school. But it became worse now when I joined in the university, at the University of Nairobi, when I was a first year. That's when I started gambling, going into casinos, at night specifically, placing sports bets. And one day now I started even placing these other bets. There are these other bets called the Gaminator and Roulette, and that's why it became worse. Initially, I used to win. Then out of a sudden, the losing stage started coming in. It went all the way to desperation stage, where now I became desperate, tried committing suicide, lost everything I had, more than 2-3 times. Lost even myself, lost so many people around me. Started stealing and went into jail. It's basically a big cycle that happened. Yeah.
Okay, if I was to ask, you said there's alcohol,
Yeah.
then there's gambling.
Yeah.
So kindly take us a step at a time. When you started taking alcohol, you were in class 8, right?
No. Class 8, I used to smoke bang a little bit. And but bang, I wasn't that much hooked.
Who introduced you to it?
You know, just
Friends.
I don't think I can ever blame anybody to introduce me into drugs. I was doing everything I did out of curiosity. And that's why I found myself, I mean, I wanted to see what is there in bang. But I never got hooked up that much into drugs. What really got me hooked up to is gambling. What? Gambling was danger. The fact that I never got into alcohol is because I saw what he had done to my dad. My dad was an alcoholic for so many years, up to when he checked into a rehab back in 2004. He's now 19 years sober. And what he had done to him and my mom, because they were all both alcoholics. And my mom actually died out of the same. So, I mean, out of seeing that, and I really wanted a totally different life from what I saw in them. That's where now I thought that I had that urge that I want to be rich. I used to study Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Larry Page, and all these people, the rich people. And I used to even invest in shares and all that. Then one day I find myself in a gambling, thinking, and it was the new trend. Nobody had told me that gambling is danger. And that's how I got hooked up into it. Danger, specifically when I was in first year. So a little bit,
campus?
University of Nairobi. But I used to fear getting into alcohol because of what I had seen it done to my dad. But out of now desperation and because of gambling, you know, addiction gets you into a place where you become careless. You don't even care, even when it comes. That's why you find that Most of the people even engage in addiction like alcoholism or gambling. We even engage in unhealthy sexual practices. Like we won't use protection, we don't care, we will get unnecessary babies, I mean, everywhere, because we have come to a point where we hate ourselves so much, up to a point where, I mean, nothing, we care about nothing. That's where I got to, and that's how I got involved in even alcoholism, Mera all the time, Bang, some other drugs called Cosmos. I mean, I used to use all of them.
So in this period while you were still a student in the university, and you're now into gambling and all these addictions, how did it affect you?
A lot. I don't think there is any fun I have had in university. I mean,
were you attending classes actually?
Never. Even exams. There is an exam I never attended because I was in the casino winning. And when I lost all the money, that's when now you always come back to your senses when you have lost money. And that's why I got back into my senses. I have lost everything I had. And that's why only to get back into the exam room, and I was 40 minutes late.
And how are you using this money that you've said you do win at times?
You win, but I mean, there is a saying that goes that the worst loss to a gambler is a win. That's the worst loss, because I mean, when you win, it motivates you to go back, and it makes you feel like you can get even more. And that's why it's very hard to become rich through gambling. Actually, it's probability is 0 to become rich, because it gets to a point where your mind has been, I mean, there is a circuit like now that it gets to a place where, because of the dopamine being released, you are doing it out of highness. If I used to stay in those machines and seeing, I mean, even when you're watching a football match, it's you are waiting for that moment where the 90 minutes come to an end, or even when you're winning, you get money. I mean, to get to next week with that money, it's very impossible.
Maybe for those who don't have an idea of how gambling takes place, how frequently would you do this? And the highest money probably you won from the gambling?
Daily, 24 hours. Specifically last year but one, it was 24 hours. And now I got into stealing, because you get to a point...
You steal money?
Yeah.
Because you need money for gambling?
Yes. Anybody who knows me cannot allow me into their life. My wife, not my wife, my family, my sisters, my parents. Anybody who knows my friends from campus, they get to a place where now they first have to love you from afar, because they have tried every other assistant. I went even into a rehab, relapsed. I mean,
for a period of how long?
3 months. But the rehab I went to...
It didn't work?
I don't know. I never say that the rehab didn't work. And that's not a good comment. I never worked. I never worked, because you have to work the program of recovery for it to...
with you.
It has to start with me. So I never worked the program. Even if there is no gambling rehab in Kenya, at least I had a few ideas of how it was supposed to be doing. I never followed so many laws that are supposed to be there, like no amount of betting. You should never I shouldn't have involved myself in any level of gambling. I started playing pool table. Pool table easily brought me back. I started betting online. That was another trigger. I involved myself in a life that wasn't according to my level. Women, careless with them. And eventually, as a gambler, you will go back, resort to gambling to keep up with that lifestyle.
You've said at some point you'd steal.
Yeah.
From who were you stealing this money, or what were you stealing?
I got to a point where I hated that lifestyle, but I didn't know how to get out of it. And that's how every addict is. So most of the time I used to think that if I steal in a casino, one, it will help me sell these items that I stole, and number two, I will be banned from the same casino. But all in all, and now even from my family, I mean, I used to steal from them. I used to steal from people's houses, clothing lines. But I've never stolen from anybody.
Where were you
by
staying
using
at
violence.
this time?
See, in the streets. I've gone into a place where I sold everything, even in my house. And nobody can accommodate me into his or her house. So I have to stay in the streets and live there. Wow. And that is what used to happen in my life. I used to live in the streets. And
why didn't you go back to your family?
I used to go back home. Mostly my self-esteem is low. I feel like I'm a disappointment. I can't stay with them. I know I'm not living the life I'm supposed to be. Or most of the time, even when I go home, I will steal a TV, I will steal some coffee that my dad had. I mean, I was just living a terrible life, and that was the life, yes. And it even got me into jail. So, because one day I stole a phone from the casino, and then they tracked me, and I was taken into industrial area prisons for 4 months. Tough time it was. I mean, there is no place that addiction hasn't taken me. And on the other hand, there is no place that recovery is not going to take me. Yeah.
Maybe, Mark, once you get into addiction,
Yeah.
and now you ain't, you feel like the society is not understanding you as well.
Yeah.
Like you've just said, even at home, you'd steal from them, your own home.
Yes.
Do you feel like probably they'd have embraced you in a different way?
Who?
Your family, yeah.
No, my family gave me every bit of them. I mean, if there are people I appreciate, it's my family. Actually, when my mom died, I believe 70% I was the reason. But
what happened?
She died years out of alcohol. And alcohol made the cancer worse. But I believe I should have stepped up as the only son for her. I never live in the past, but I have to say that. And looking back, if there are people who even encouraged me to stay in recovery, is my family. I remember one of my brother-in-law called Moses told me that we are tired of you living that kind of life. Would you want to go back to that rehab where you were in? I mean, that was the kind of encouragement they gave me. They are even the ones who paid for me in rehab. Why? I mean, I remember my sister used to call one of my friends crying, asking them what happened to Kamau. Why is he doing this to us? And we also have kids. I mean, our attention should be into our kids. Why is he doing this to us? I mean, God gave them a heart. I remember even my sister.
You're the youngest.
Yeah. My sister even taking me to these places in the hospital, trying to see if I would change. I mean, and they are so happy to even see me in recovery. So I'm no bit, and that is the power of having a family that is out there to see you in. And that they were the people who encouraged me. I believe 90% if they would never stepped up, they allowed me into their life. They even bought me a phone when I was early in recovery. I mean, same people trusted me with so much. I mean, was it not for I don't think I would be in recovery by now.
And when did you get this point of now recovery? Because they had tried taking you to a rehab before, and you've said you never worked out the program. Then this time, until now, you've recovered. Yeah.
When my mom died, I sat down and realized I wasn't living like a man is supposed to live. I mean, I was in the streets.
When was that?
January this year, January 1. My mom died New Year's Eve. And maybe that will be something I will always remember. Every other first January.
Hit you.
Yeah, it did, absolutely. But I don't even know how I was able to survive the whole situation up to now. Sober and all that. I mean, I don't know how I'm still here now. But on the other hand, I do know that it really hit me hard. It made me to get to realize that I wasn't living the life I was supposed to live. And then I realized I still have potential. And God loved me because there are so many mob justices that I was saved from. There are so many times when the police chased me and never got me. There are so many times I was taken to the police station and, I mean, torture was done on me. And I mean, I tried committing suicide more than 3 times, never died. So there was still a reason as to why I saw there was light. There was still some light. And I realized, there is something that God wants to do with me. And that is what inspired me to get into recovery. I hated that life and I wanted to live a totally different life. And there is nothing that I hadn't done. So I was looking to this other side of life.
Maybe, I think from the small research I've done, it's like addiction and depression and kind of rejection. They do follow each other.
Absolutely.
Because to a point that now you want to commit suicide. What happens in between that period?
What happens is we get to a point where nobody wants you. You have hated yourself. You are living a life that you're not supposed to live.
Wait a minute. Is it really that you hated, ama it is in your mind that now everyone hates you?
Absolutely, that is number one. Again, you know, an addict thinks that everybody is concerned about them. So they think everything is about them and it revolves around them. We want our own way, not, I mean, and that kind of a mentality is dangerous. The mindset of entitlement, all this will lead you into depression. The mindset of, I mean, things has to be done in my own way. And again, wanting things to happen quickly, because gambling, if you are gambling, you want things to happen instantly, and things won't work out that way. I've never seen anybody who made it to the top who is lucky. All these factors combined, and then you waste a lot, because in gambling you lose a lot.
There's a lot of losing.
Yes, sometimes even losing partners. And you know, specifically what I've realized about us men is that we struggle to move on. Even if we try to pretend we are strong, most men will struggle when it comes to that. And specifically if they really love somebody, and then that person leaves their life, and they know that they were the problem. It takes a lot of time for them to agree, and to agree into terms and accept the fact that they have already left and they are already married. So, and most of the time, this happens. You lose these people, you lose yourself, you lose your family, you lose so many items, you lose jobs. All these factors combined, and you see no light at the end of the tunnel. You end up thinking about suicide.
So you were still a student at University of Nairobi. You've not told us whether you finished school.
I finished
your course.
Yeah, I finished, but 2 years late. I was supposed to graduate on 2019, but I graduated on 2021. By God's grace, I graduated. I mean, that is actually another miracle that made me realize that God is in my story. So, I mean, even being able to graduate with the lifestyle I was living, not many people are able to graduate.
Which course were you pursuing?
I was taking economics and psychology. So, I don't even know why I chose psychology when I was in first year. So, in a way, I'm doing what I studied.
Well, and now to this point, after your mom died, and now it hit you hard, and you're the only son, right?
Yes.
And you've said you've been raised up in a background of alcoholics.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you have that mind of, I have to be different?
Yes.
I really have to change. And at what point did that decision now come up, and you're now the Mark we're seeing today?
Immediately after my mom's death, I never wasted any time. I've never gone back from that day. I realized how, I mean, when I saw my mom's burial, I never thought that there would be the amount of people I saw there. Whether they came because of her or because of my sister, I don't know. But I realized if this can happen, even if they are still my sisters, if they came because of my sisters, that shows that there is something in my family that I haven't tapped into. And even when I was in addiction, whether I was in the streets, I was respected. Whether I was in the streets, whatever I used to do it so good that, I mean, if I'm stealing in 1 year, the things I'm going to do, I mean, if I'm doing bad things, by 1 year, I will be in jail. I have done so many things. I mean, if I'm doing good things, if it's by 5 months, the things I will have done. And then I realized, why don't I focus on the good things? It wasn't easy. I had to first live with my dad for 2 months, a man I had never forgiven or ever sat down with. And then I realized how amazing he was, washing his clothes,
so
doing everything for him. Yeah. And the moment I dealt with them, it was tough. Now we sit the way we are sitting with you, discuss a lot. He's an amazing man, and that was another part that really helped me in recovery by forgiving him, because he also needed to forgive me because I had done so many bad things onto him. Most of us as addicts, we always focus on the other side. They did. We are not focusing on our side of the field. So, and when I focused on my side of the field and realized that I had to take something I call APR, absolute personal responsibility of my life, that's when things started changing. And that is the only thing that has happened in my life. I never blame anybody. I'm never entitled. You say no to me, I'll still keep on keeping on because I know God is going to bring that person who believes in me. I mean, and that is, I mean, that it's a complete turnaround in your life. It's not only about quitting drugs. It's not only about quitting gambling. It's about bringing in a new belief system, a new mindset, a new way of living. that will make it so hard to go back into the gambling and drinking. Because if you don't deal with that inner you, if you don't deal with those issues that you're dealing with, eventually the disease is coming back.
Our lovely viewers, like you've just heard the story of Mark. It's so powerful, it's so inspiring, and I feel like we need to have him on our next episode in part 2 of this, so that he can have to share more, we can have to listen more from him as we learn and as we inspire a brother or a sister out there. So see you on our next episode. We'll stay in touch on the comment section. Don't forget to like and share this video as well. Until then, I am your host, Wanjiku Mwaura.